This is a CBS 12 News special report. Bringing back the Bahamas. Sponsored by Bahamas Paradise Cruise Line.
When people think of the Bahamas, they think paradise, crystal blue ocean, honeymoons, fishing trips, and relaxing on the beach.
Yeah, but for more than 24 hours in early September, the Abacos and parts of the Grand Bahama Island were hell on earth. Screaming winds topping 180 miles an hour, ripping homes from their foundations, and storm surge up to 20 feet pushed boats and cars through the streets and sent people scrambling for high ground.
When it was over, the only choice was to flee the islands or try to hang on to what little was left.
There's nothing to come back to. That's not a joke what's happening on this island right now. People need help right now. They need all the help that they could get.
Dorian was Godzilla.
It's a completely different outlook on life.
We feel very blessed and fortunate that, we were spared, but if we're spared, then that means somebody else gets the hit.
My girlfriend's brother was confirmed dead. Two other people that I grew up with was confirmed dead. And my friend was confirmed dead.
Smell of death in the air. Everything's just flattened. And it's heartbreaking.
This place is disaster.
It's death. I've smelt it before after Maria, doing search and rescue there, but it's definitely tenfold here.
It's like an atomic bomb went off.
My personal wind anemometer broke at about 160.
People were just walking around like zombies, just in total shock.
We spent 8 hours in the closet having life and death conversations.
We can see my dad's house. It's like it just crushed. Like somebody just put a big machine in, crush it down to nothing.
It's no comparison. Like nothing I've ever seen. I mean, it's undescribable.
The sound was incredible. Just the roaring of the wind and the pounding of the rain and debris hitting the house.
When I saw the pressure drop from 940 to I think it was 919 millibars, I knew it was a 200-mile-an-hour storm.
I had to hold onto the rope and swim over and climb on the top of the wall to get in.
Dorian, within 36 hours, left me this.
These houses ahead of us were never here. These houses were pushed here by the force of the water.
I could see the water coming up. I think it came up to about, can you see that mark up there?
Found stuff from my dive store a mile away. I mean, it was a phenomenal surge that came through here.
People that are not in their right minds right now. People need serious counseling right now.
Mentally, this storm did a lot to not only me, but a lot of us. And I don't think anybody have the will to really go through another hurricane like that.
Now we're seeing more of the humanitarian effort coming in.
My home is everywhere, so if someone's suffering in one place, I'm suffering.
Spent a lot of time coming over here as a kid. These people don't have anything left. They go home to a tarp over their roof, and that's all they got.
Well, the first couple times we were delivering supplies to the people that needed it, and now we're helping the people that need new roofs.
I wanted to come back because there was so much more still to do.
Once you go there, you talk to people, you see the impact you are making, you just cannot sit back. Our crew cooked about 10,000 hot meals for the locals when they haven't had a hot meal for days.
A hot meal means everything to me right now because it's hard to get a meal.
I tried to put myself in that same situation at my home.
Once you get here and really see all the destruction, it's absolutely wild.
We were probably the 5th boat in to the Bahamas with supplies with a bunch of guys, and we haven't stopped since.
We feel motivated by the families and the people that we know to rebuild and make it a better place.
You are making a difference in the lives of people that many of them are hanging on by a thread. They have their own families and they're grateful to be alive. But beyond that, they are hanging on by a thread, and you're doing something special in their lives that will never be forgotten, and that's worth doing.
The one place that was hit particularly hard, an unofficial Haitian settlement called Sandbanks. With no power, running water, and hardly anything left standing, some families were still reluctant to leave their homes.
After Dorian came through, the damage here was so bad people hardly recognized the streets where they lived. Once a village of Haitian immigrants, now turned to rubble. Volunteers from the Treasure Coast stumbled upon the devastation and couldn't believe their eyes.
Conditions that they're in right now are really not suitable for them. They've got babies, they've got children.
They knew these people needed their help right away. Children fought away flies just to eat their breakfast, and this woman washed clothes with dirty well water.
Let her know that we're not here for anything other than aid and relief.
First time I see that in my life.
This is Israel. He wrote out Hurricane Dorian from the local fire station.
I pray God you get life. Many people don't get life.
As a local firefighter, his instincts kicked in. His life almost gone as he drove from the station in this ambulance to get a better shelter with his 7-year-old girl.
I leave him and put him in my neck.
Israel is one of dozens of Haitians in this community who lost their homes. He asks everyone to keep them in your prayers.
What I can say to all Haitians, to pray for all the Haitians, for all the ones that survived the storms. I ask everybody to pray for the Haitian community.
Volunteers wanted to move these families to nearby churches where they could have better access to food, water, shelter, and electricity.
We are dropping off cots and inflatable beds.
Well, we just have to make sure it's not fastened on these hinges.
Some families refused to move because they feared what would happen if they left their homes, a concern shared at other unauthorized Haitian villages nearby. This mother speaks no English.
If you're not putting her in a house or a rent house, she's not going to the church.
His family lived in a place they called the farm. Just like in the Sandbanks, they didn't want to leave, especially if they couldn't have a place of their own. In early October, construction started in the Sandbanks to tear down the homes destroyed by Hurricane Dorian. About 2 months after the storm, you can see leftover debris is in piles, all labeled based on what they are, and all this is planned to be cleared by the end of the year. Today, the Sandbanks no longer exist, and the farm is inaccessible.
Okay, y'all ready?
Some of the kids we met, like the ones that were fanning flies, are now back in school, still going home to tents at churches. Many don't know where their next home will be, but hope is alive in part thanks to volunteers from the Treasure Coast and all over the world. With very little government involvement, people who live in places like this and the volunteers, they had to decide where to start. They had very limited materials and manpower. Not surprising, they decided to start with the schools. All across the Abaco Islands, schools are empty.
Today's mission is clean the main street, make it look a little better, people feel better.
Volunteers from the Treasure Coast are taking on schools in Treasure Key and Elbow Key.
To get the children back and the families back together, the only way to do it is to have a school system.
Here, playgrounds are destroyed and classrooms are unusable.
For me, it touches close to home because I can't help but think of my 2 granddaughters.
This school in Hopetown on Elbow Key came alive in 1893. The principal tells us the damage caused by Hurricane Dorian was unimaginable.
We sat down and took a long pause and got very emotional. The school was about to open. It would have been open on a Monday for the next school year, and the storm came in on the Saturday and the Sunday.
About 70 kids were ready to attend school before the storm. Now, because of this, they are scattered across the world, some in Nassau, Florida, and even Canada. In just a few hours, volunteers removed trees from classrooms, cleaned up debris, and brought hope to school administrators.
It really gives us encouragement and hope to see this happen.
The volunteers felt good doing it, too.
They love school. And I know there's kids that should be here that are missing school and that love school, too.
For those who know Marsh Harbor on Great Abaco Island, one of the most iconic landmarks fell victim to Dorian's wrath.
Yeah, for decades, Seaview Castle has stood watch over the coastline, but today, its future's uncertain.
A dream come true.
It was just beautiful.
Gail Common lives in this yellow castle in the sky on Marsh Harbor. She says her father built it in 1953.
My dad loved that type of architecture.
The dream survived a nightmare.
Huge shutters we had, like on the sliding glass doors. They were just like tissue paper, just flying away like birds in the sky. And then the sliding glass doors behind that.
Hurricane Dorian's Category 5 strength destroyed the castle's roof and much of its structural integrity. It also wiped out 5 other homes, which Cotman made a living renting out. It's a nightmare that seems to never end.
I think just recently I've had more low moments than I did in the beginning, because in the beginning I just didn't have time to think about it. And right now I still don't have time to think about it, but I can think more. And it's just starting to really hit me.
The feeling of hopelessness hits harder than the storm itself for many people who live here.
Well, I'm getting old, and you got to try and start all over again, I guess. But you know, I try to keep a good. I try to keep my spirits up, and I try to just say, well, tomorrow's going to be a better day.
Living one day at a time, hoping one day to wake up from the nightmare on Marsh Harbor.
When we come back, clear evidence that the millions of dollars in aid, the hundreds of volunteers, and the massive effort by the Bahamians themselves is starting to make a clear difference. When it comes to taking care of people after a disaster, water, food, and of course medical care are at the top of the list. But right behind that, a roof overhead. As James Torres and photojournalist Chris Hinson tell us, once again, Treasure Coast volunteers had it covered.
This is the first time Chad Bagwell is seeing the damage in the Bahamas.
But I grew up in Stewart and spent a lot of time coming over here as a kid.
It's why he's here with 25 United from Stewart, rebuilding homes and hoping to make a difference.
Definitely going to have a couple of my contractor buddies that if they see any of this, they're like, look at this clown.
Here, volunteers broke down this roof one shingle at a time. Next to Chad is his dad.
And just turn that way so your butt's not in my face, all right?
For nearly 3 weeks, Jamie Bagwell spent his time volunteering for the people who need help the most.
Get to see my son sweat, that's pretty good. Kind of like that a lot.
This father-son duo worked to prepare this roof to come off and be replaced. It's something this homeowner can't believe complete strangers are willing to do for him.
Oh, I never met them before. It's very nice to see people come around like that and just fall in love with people and try to help people to get up on their feet again. You know, it's very nice. We appreciate that.
The goal here is to build momentum in this small town of the Abaco Islands.
This is what I can offer, is some manual labor.
2 months after Hurricane Dorian, these volunteers know help is still needed, and these people will not be forgotten.
And we really appreciate you guys. Keep coming. Don't stop coming. Keep coming back. Yeah.
From the rooftops of the Blackwood villages in Abaco to the streets of Hopetown near Marsh Harbor, where we caught up with another group of volunteers hard at work.
It took a 45-minute boat ride from Treasure Key to Elbow Key, a more luxurious side of the Abaco Islands. But for hours, Floridians and Bahamians worked together to get a job done.
This is like our second family. My wife, myself, and my kids, we do boating, a lot of boating to the Bahamas, at least a couple, 2-3 times a year.
J.J. Vaughn Esslinger is a retired Martin County firefighter. He's running one of these heavy machines.
This was my full-time job before I ever started in the fire department.
While Kinsley Dean of Treasure Key runs the other.
It's awesome, and believe me, we do appreciate the assistance. It's unbelievable.
Between all the manpower, dozens of people cleared roofs from yards and debris from the roads. And in just a few short hours, they covered a lot of ground.
These people need a lot from us.
Bringing hope and optimism to the people here who need it most.
Abaco to be way more prosperous and more developed than it was, and the people get together in harmony, more better, more unity.
Slowly, more than a month after Dorian, power was restored and water. Cell phone service was also back up in many areas. Even some schools were open.
But when it comes to getting back a sense of normalcy, there's nothing like going to the store.
It's a first in Marsh Harbor.
So you can see all our produce and stuff, fresh salads they're making now.
And a great service to all of the Abaco Islands.
We aren't fully stocked like we would have been back, in August. We're still waiting on shipments to come in, but we've got fresh produce, fresh meat, chicken, eggs, bread, that kind of stuff.
Chad Sawyer owns this supermarket called Maxwell's. Before Hurricane Dorian, it was the go-to grocery store for everyone here. At one point, there was a concern over value-added taxes and if that would bump up the price for real simple things for people to eat. But thankfully, the government has waived those taxes and prices are reasonable. It's a relief for shoppers like Candy Heel.
Great. Feel great.
Her grocery list is short.
Baby food.
But for these hundreds of shoppers, having a store open to buy food is one huge step toward rebuilding the Abacos.
You're at 6653.
More than 50 employees are at work to help shoppers explore 15 aisles worth of food.
We pray that we will never forget that it is your good grace and mercy that we've survived.
These people on the island count their blessings for finally having their first major step toward getting back to a normal life.
To show that we will recover, we will come back from this. It's going to take some time, there's going to be some struggles, but we'll climb that mountain.
When it came to destruction, Hurricane Dorian showed no favorites. Schools, churches, villages, and castles all felt the brunt of the killer storm, as did one of the Bahamas' most famous watering holes.
Yeah, rebuilding homes, clearing roads, and fixing roofs, that's thirsty work. So even after suffering millions of dollars in damage, the Abaco Inn was focused on reopening to provide food and drink to the island's volunteers.
Hopetown is a very small island. We don't have a town drunk, so we all just have to take turns.
This place is known for having fun.
You can get a beer for $5. You can get a frozen drink for $10, but we have a 25-year-old Pappy Van Winkle that's $950 for a 2-ounce pour.
Dan Sullivan owns the Abaco Inn on Elbow Key. Today, it doesn't look like what it used to.
I was here for Hurricane Floyd in '98, and we thought that was the most devastating storm of all times. The storm made that look like a passing shower.
The resort suffered more than $5 million worth of damage. 2 villas washed away to Hurricane Dorian's wrath. The destruction breaks the hearts of Treasure Coast volunteers who spent many Christmases here.
We couldn't sleep, and we got through to some people right after the storm, but my wife and I got into the Bahamas. We were probably the 5th boat into the Bahamas with supplies with a bunch of guys, and we haven't stopped since.
Despite what you see, Sullivan says he isn't worried.
We're going to come back. This really is the hot spot in the Bahamas right now, Hopetown is, and we're going to rebuild it.
He plans to open it back up next week to serve as a hub of food, drinks, and a little fun for people who could use it most.
If you came here to forget, please pay in advance. So we have a lot of fun here.
While the road to recovery is going to be a long one, there are some positive signs that things are starting to move forward. And for the people who decided to stay on the island and those who are now returning, the one thing they all share is gratitude. More on that in a moment.
The people here in High Rock lost everything: their homes, their livelihoods, their family members. But the one thing they didn't lose, their faith.
I will worship. I will worship. I will bow down before my Lord and King.
People are just happy to be alive. You know, they went through a lot.
A portion of my roof came off, and all the contents inside, we lost everything. We lost loved ones, we've lost contents, but we're still here.
She lost like 7 members in one house.
Will you love him?
She's a prayer warrior. She cries a lot. Her belief is they're safe in Jesus' arms. That's the only thing she can, we can hope.
The enemy, he comes to kill, steal, and destroy. But we got to remember that we serve a mighty God.
I will love him. I will love him. I will give him.
We just have a lot of food items today that we have for distribution. Clothing, footwear, and stuff like that we're going to be doing for distribution. Every Sunday we've been doing it. Every Sunday.
You say that with a big smile on your face.
Yeah, because it's been a blessing.
Will you give him? Will you give him your all?
We serve a mighty God. He's the creator of the heavens and the earth. And if his promises, if we don't hold on to his promises, then what else do we have?
We don't need people to come in and break us down. We don't need nobody to come in and say, oh, look at what happened. Oh, this is, no. We need people to come in and say it's going to be okay. We need people to come in and say it's going to be okay. you're going to be okay again.
I know that He's a faithful God, and He promised to see me through. He promised never to leave me or to forsake me. He promised to be with me until the very end, you know.
CBS 12 News has been the only local station providing daily reports from the Bahamas since Hurricane Dorian hit. Our crews have also been volunteering alongside many others from the Treasure Coast and Palm Beach County. And we want to say a special thank you to the many local volunteer groups and organizations without whose help we could not have brought these stories to you. They include Brown Helicopter, Operation 300, the Mastriani Family Foundation, Eagles Flight, 25 United, and Hey Sandy PR and Communications. And of course our partners, O'Neill Cosa and the Bahamas Paradise Cruise Lines, who were the very first to bring over volunteers, doctors, and supplies to the islands that are so important to them, and they continue to do so today.
And finally, all the CBS 12 viewers and friends who have donated time and money to help our neighbors in their hour of need. Thank you for watching and for doing so much to bring back the Bahamas.
Oh, will you worship? Will you worship? Will you bow down before my Lord and King? I will love Him. I will love Him. I will give Him. I will give Him my all, my everything. Will you worship? Will you worship? Will you bow down? Will you bow down before my Lord and King? My Lord and King. Oh, will you love Him? Will you love Him? Will you give Him? Will you give Him your all, your everything?
You have been watching a CBS 12 News special report, Bringing Back the Bahamas. Sponsored by Bahamas Paradise Cruise Line.